All right, last night was a losing night for us here. We both like Jacksonville. They didn't show up, so that means Sunday should be better. Chad Millman, Chief Content Officer, The Action Network. Let's take a look at some of the key lines this weekend. A lot of movement in some of these games. Very intriguing stuff, Chad, as we bring him into the Boardwalk Honda hotline. This one game to start off with here. How does a game go from starting at 7? It's up to 12.5 at FanDuel, that Colts-Jets game. What happened? Did somebody is the whole offense gone from the Jets?
I think you're looking at the fact that it's the Jets. That's really just all there is to it, right?
That's a big movement, though. Have you ever seen movement like that from 7 to 12.5 in 1 week?
Well, you see it when so many bets start coming in on one side, and early in the week, that's what happened. But then it was followed, which doesn't always happen, is the money came in even bigger numbers. Like right now, I'm looking at the Action Network app, and there's 55% of the bets are on Indianapolis. Bets are usually indicative of the public, right? The people who know less, they bet smaller numbers. Then 70% of the money is on Indianapolis. And that is wise guy money. And so what you're seeing is a significant run on the Colts from professional bettors. Now, are they betting at the Colts at 7.5? Are they betting them at 8? Are they betting them at 9? They're probably not betting them at 11 or 11.5, but that's where the money started.
49ers, Giants. Now, the 49ers are playing in the same spot 2 weeks in a row, just a different team. Two bad teams here. Started at 6.5, down to 3.5. What's our message there?
Well, the message is Jimmy Garoppolo injured, Nick Bosa out, all the running backs out, their lineman Solomon Thomas out. There's just so many injuries that have piled up for the Niners, and so you have to adjust the number at that point. And the wise guys, before the injuries were even official, were coming in on the side of the Giants. So that's what you got, is a lot of people coming on the Giants. I actually loved the Giants when it was at 6.5, 5.5, 5. At 3.5, it's getting a little bit, it's not sort of at my liking anymore. There's an old axiom in sports betting, you got to get the best of the number. And if you want to bet this game, you've lost the best of the number on the Giants.
Seattle is at home. They opened up at 3.5 over the Dallas Cowboys. You're starting to see it push 5. What are your thoughts?
Give me the Cowboys. I love the Cowboys in this spot. Their offense is fantastic. And the Seahawks suffered some injuries on defense. And you're always going to have a shootout in these games. You've got two great quarterbacks head-to-head in a really good spot for the Cowboys. I think part of it is you saw the Cowboys do what they did against Atlanta and go down so early in a game that it felt like they should have been the right side the whole time. So the public has decided to come in on the Seahawks, who, look, when the team plays in prime time and they beat the Patriots, even if it's not Cam Newton, even if it's not Tom Brady's Patriots anymore, the public comes in on that team. And so that's what you're seeing here, and that's why the number's jumping. But I like the Cowboys.
Chad Millman from the Action Network's here with us, taking a look at some of the lines from Sunday. What's going on with that? I like to look at these emotionals, meaning the Raiders had an emotional win. Now they've got to play the Patriots on the road. 6.5 open, 5.5 now. When you look at a team that wins a game like that on Monday night, and it looked like they were going to the AFC Championship game with that win, is that a game that you zone in on?
I fade it. I totally fade it. And this is actually a great spot just from a sort of buy low, sell high. Point spreads are made on public perception, right? That's what bookmakers think about. Bookmakers know the last time they saw the Raiders, they were beating a Super Bowl contender in the Saints and coming from behind early in the first half to do it. And they saw the Patriots lose in a really disappointing way against the Seahawks, also in prime time. When you're getting those two things meeting at the same time, you're automatically going to have to fade the team that had the bigger win, because that's where bookmakers are going to give you the opportunity. They're going to make that team's number a little bit bigger than it probably should be, and that's what we saw. And so now money is coming in money's coming in on the Patriots, and that to me, that's the right side.
Now, the other one is Arizona. They feel like the darlings all of a sudden, like they're the hot, cool team that everybody wants to jump on. Opens at 3.5 against a terrible Lions team. Now up to 5.5. It seems like everybody is all over Arizona. Does that make you want to go Lions?
It's scaring me a little bit. Like every part of my being says, bet the Lions. Teams that are 0-2 going into week 3 usually cover at a 56% clip. So the Lions fall into that category. But boy, I hate this team. And for me, it's like Kyler Murray has been so good. There's no real reason to walk away from him yet. So I'm going to back the Cardinals.
Now, you mentioned 0-2 teams. Here in Philly, you got an 0-2 team, but they're playing an 0-2 team. Opened at 5.5, kind of staying right around there, 4.5 across the board. Now, what do you do with two 0-2 teams?
You use one of those teams in your survivor pool and hope they at least show up because they have more talent on the roster.
So that's a hard pass on that one, huh?
That's a hard pass on that one. Look, I was on the Eagles last week against the Rams. I really thought they'd show up. They are just out of sorts. Like, that was a bad showing against the Washington football team. That was a bad showing against the Rams. They've made two teams look really, really good. And so I am going to have to pass on this Eagles team until I start to get a real sense of who they are.
The Steelers opened up as a 6-point favorite. They got Big Ben back. Their defense seems to be legit this year. It has moved to -4. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's moved because everyone is backing Deshaun Watson off of that stat I just told you. That, like, this is a team that is 0-2 but is much more dangerous than its record indicates. And the Steelers opened at a big number, but they opened at a big number off of a 2-0 start. They did not look great beating the Broncos and beating Jeff Driscoll the other day. So the Wise guys decided to come in on the Texans, and that's the right move. Like, that's where I would have come in as well. At this point, I'm not going to back anybody because the numbers move too much for me.
Chad Millman, he is the Chief Content Officer at the Action Network. It's a great place to go to check out odds on everything. You can get the Action Network app. You can look at the odds at every single app site that you like to use, whatever your preference is. They've got all, so you can kind of shop odds. Couple that are your favorite this weekend.
Oh, boy. It's so, like, I keep looking at this Bears game as underdogs against the Falcons, but I think about that 0-2 stat, and it makes me nervous. I think about what was the other one that I liked? I love the Cowboys in this spot. We already talked about them. They are, well, without a doubt, like, if I am ranking, Cowboys number 1. I like the Saints number 2 at -3. Also, the Packers went on the road. They beat Minnesota. They beat the Lions at home. The Saints have a bad showing. Drew Brees looks old. But this defense is not the Lions. It is not the Vikings, which looks really out of sorts. So I think there's a little bit of value on the Saints there. I'm also, right now, I'm a really, really big fan of the under in the under 43 now in the Bucs-Broncos game, just because I don't think the Broncos really have the talent to score there. Cortland Sutton out, Jeff Driscoll playing. It's not a great spot for them, and I don't see the Bucs sort of lighting it up in Mile High.
Real quick before we let you roll, the Hoops, man. It's been 6 in that Lakers series the whole way. They got that game, and that's just, we know the story with the Nuggets. I'm assuming that's going to be a fun one. And then you got 3 in the game tonight.
Yeah, wow. Like the Celtics, I'm astonished that they didn't pull that game out the other night. I'm astonished the Celtics aren't leading this right now. And it's just impossible. I had the under in that game the other night. It's really impossible to bet on the Celtics right now because they just cannot figure out what to do with that zone. And I'm not saying anything that anybody else hasn't said. And I know they're 3-point favorites tonight. It's a must-win game. They have to win it, but they are not a team I can back right now.
All right, Chad Millman, Action Network. Of course, Fridays we take a look at all the different line movement and what it means. And by the way, I was listening to the Kyler Murray stuff too. I mean, if you're a futures guy, that would be a nice ticket to go find on Kyler Murray. He's 2 weeks in. He's got to be the MVP.
Yeah, I mean, he's 14-1 to win the MVP right now. Russell Wilson, obviously 3-1. But if you think the Cards are that team this year that is like the Ravens or like the Chiefs that can sort of take that next step with a young quarterback, then Kyler Murray at 14-1 is your guy, because chances are it's a better bet than division or conference, because the odds for him to win the MVP are longer. But if they do what we think he can do, which is win the NFC West potentially and potentially win the conference, I have the Cardinals at 50-1 to win the Super Bowl already. So Kyler Murray at MVP is your best bet.
Yeah, you got to get on. That's like one of those prop swap bets. You got to go find that ticket on prop swap and get that guy to get you the Kyler Murray at wherever he opened at, because that's probably a fun ticket. All right, I'm looking forward to the action this weekend. Chad Millman for the ActionNetwork.com. Make sure you make that a weekly habit to check out everything they got going. Tremendous content from Chad and the guys at the Action Network. Thank you, bud.
Thanks, friends. Talk to you later.
All right, he'll be back with us next week. Great insight